there is a simple but not easy question that every new person coming into crypto asks themselves. How to get rich in crypto without getting lucky and without falling for all the scams. So let me ask you, how can I build wealth in crypto without any luck involved?
So simply, it's the same advice to everybody who comes into the space. Just buy Bitcoin. And dollar cost average, so buy some with your paycheck and hold it and get a feel for it. And everybody I've taken down that journey, at first they do that. You're usually giving them that advice when the market's going up. Then they have the correction. They have to learn, oh my God, it can go down 40% as well. Am I going to lose all my money? They have to go through all of this. But that's the learning curve. And then after a while, they get used to the volatility and they become numb to it. And then you can say, okay, have you listened to podcasts? Have you done research? Have you been on Twitter? Not to listen to trading stuff, but just to understand what is this technology? Because Bitcoin is just a part of the space. It's the digital gold is the store of value. But then people they want to get more speculative in the space. They want to try and make money. So then you start saying, okay, listen, only use the top 3 or 4 projects.
Yeah, but so I'm the Uber driver or anyone else coming into crypto. First you say Bitcoin, right? And I'm like, everyone, without exception, will say, yeah, but Bitcoin is 90K or 100K. If it goes to 200K, I'm only up to 2x. Fuck this shit, bro. I want to make money, right?
No, not yet. Not yet. Because at first, they're coming out of 401k world or investing world, or they've got a bank account and they're getting 5% interest on their deposits, right? The Uber driver. And he's thinking, well, how do I make money? I've owned some, he might have bought a share or two or owns, an ETF. So when you say, well, Bitcoin on average does like 150% returns since 2012, they're like, holy shit. But then once you start seeing the rest of crypto, you're like 100%, but that bloke just made 100x. Okay, this is the danger zone now. This is when they start, you talk to them and they're like, I'm all in on Fartcoin. You're like, no. And I try and explain to them is you have to go down that learning journey, do that with 10% of your portfolio, because then you can fuck it up.
Billions must fart.
Billions must fart.
I saw something, brilliant tweet, I think it was yesterday. Fartcoin is AI, Fartcoin is a meme, Fartcoin is the coin of the cycle. Fartcoin is RWA, tokenized farts. Do you hold any Fartcoin by any chance?
I don't.
Why?
I'm still holding on to my smoking chicken fish, which was down 90% and is rallying well. I've kept with that meme because, look, I don't have an edge in memes. And as you know, all you end up doing is switching from one narrative to the other at narrative peak, because people are really in the trenches, can see this, and there's a different set of signals they look for. So I don't. So I have, that's the one meme I've got still. Oh, and I own Doge.
Do you still have faith?
Do I still have faith in the chicken fish? Yes. Lord Vishnu will save us, will rise from the ashes. But I don't know and I don't care is the point. It's fun. It's fun to do. And whether Fartcoin's your fun or Whiff's your fun or Bonk, it doesn't matter. Just don't let it be a large part of your portfolio, because the probability is something like 85% that it'll go to zero.
Yeah. Only 85%?
To go to zero.
Oh, yeah. Something I learned with the Luna thing was it never goes to zero. It goes to 0.1, then to 0.01, then you can always add a zero. And it's
you can also fall another 90%.
It's crazy. It's actually, I'm laughing, but when you're in the thing, like, it's not funny. It's
I'm
terrible.
surprised that Luna didn't become a meme coin. I thought it was going to happen, where people just rage bought it for the hilarity of it.
That was the narrative that a bunch of like big Luna waves. I knew a bunch of guys who lost like $250 million. Actually, I had one guy on the podcast who lost $3.6 billion in Luna. They're the biggest loss with Binance Labs. They were a VC. And I think people got so hurt. Maybe they say, we're not going to have fun with that. But a bunch of the guys who were putting $500K at $5 in Luna to buy the dip, right? They're the same ones who were like, I'm buying more Luna because it's going to become the best meme coin. Never happened.
It didn't never happen. I thought it would have been. I thought that would have been the most outrageous outcome would have been it was the meme coin of the cycle, but no.
It would have been so painful. Anyway, It's been 3 years.
and you're still scarred. But
Yeah, but that's good. That's
is.
important. Like, that's how you're like, okay, do I even want to buy this shit? Like, or too much of this shit? Or this fart? I want to have some, but not too much. Like, for me, the main thing I learned from you and from getting very wrecked is portfolio allocation. And it sounds so boring when you're in your 20s, you're having crypto, you listen to these macro guys talking about portfolio allocation. You're like, man, these guys, they're so boring. And then you realize, like 2 months ago, when everything got like wrecked, most of my portfolio is in Solana. It's down 60% or 50%. It's not great, but I'm not bothered. And I realized, I was thinking about the difference between this big liquidation that happened like 1-2 months ago and March crash 2020, because some people were making comparisons, right? And in March crash, I was levered 2-3x on BitMEX and lost all my crypto in the crash. And I was like, you actually, no one asks you to put yourself in these situations, but you do it because you're a fucking idiot. And then if you learn asset allocation, risk management, all these boring concepts, then it becomes like a walk in the park, and you can focus on building businesses and doing something useful, right?
Or you can drink wine online and insult people. But the other issue is that's not the only risk. This space is so full of risks. You have to be paranoid at all moments. Because before you know it, you're like, well, I'm buying and holding, so I want to get some yield.
Next one I want you to ask, yeah.
And then you're on some DeFi protocol that's giving you yield, and something goes wrong, goes to zero immediately. Okay, that is a classic one that happens endlessly. Or you expose your wallet and get hacked. And people don't understand wallet hygiene and how to keep things in different wallets and never expose your key wallets to things, always have a step in the middle, the custody side of stuff. There's so many ways you can get hacked. There's people impersonating me online or you online, trying to get your wallet, or impersonating Coinbase online. Everybody's after your money. And you have to be paranoid at all points.
That's very true. I would say even in life in general, when you have businesses, right, it really helps you if you're always paranoid. You're always thinking about everything that could go wrong, and you're never becoming complacent, and therefore your business, your life is more stressful. But for example, I was the opposite of that when Luna was going to the moon, right? I was like, I can go to Bali for 3-4 months. I'm just making money doing nothing, doing arbitrage from my bedroom, like pressing one button, making 1.5% every 21 days and printing money like crazy in UST, obviously. And then I got so wrecked, right? And I'm like, now I'm thinking the opposite. I'm thinking, if I'm not paranoid, I'm paranoid if I'm too chill, basically. So I become scared if I become too chill, right? And if I'm paranoid, it actually makes me feel good, because I know I have less chances of getting...
Upside will take care of itself.
Yeah.
So you don't need to worry about, will the market go up over time? As long as the central banks keep printing money and this technology gets adopted, you'll be fine, as long as you're adhering to not being too far out the risk curve. And then you need to be paranoid about every single other part. Because don't forget, in the end, we go back to the point I made earlier, everybody's life savings is in this. This is the single most important thing for most people in their financial lives. And there are so many ways you fuck it up by getting a little bit greedy. Does the 6% yield actually matter to you? Oh, but it gives me cash flow. But if I'm 6%, you get 6% and there's a percentage chance of losing all of your money, and you don't know what that percentage chance are. Now, that's not the case with all DeFi or anything else, but it's just that people end up doing dumb shit.
The yield is a very interesting point, because now there's a big new narrative that a lot of very smart people, even Bitcoiners, believe in, which is Bitcoin DeFi.
Yeah.
And earning yield on your Bitcoin. And this Bitcoin staking and restaking and all these different things, right? I'm actually, for this drop series that I told you about before, I'm interviewing a bunch of them. I'm always thinking about you and another dude I interviewed on the podcast a year and a half ago. It's called James Wu. He's the youngest crypto billionaire. He runs a digital finance group. He's like 30 years old. And he said, the same as you said, I'm not in crypto for yield, I'm in crypto for capital gains. Any yield that I can get is not worth the risk. I can go in bonds or whatever, TradFi, to get like some yield. What do you tell all these people who are trying to push the yield part on the most pristine collateral? You were saying on one side it's pristine collateral, Bitcoin, but you don't want to freaking lose your Bitcoin. Like for a yield paid in another token. Like, I don't understand. And they're saying these Bitcoin ETFs with TradFi is going to become a big thing because Bitcoin ETF will want to have yield on their Bitcoin. What do you think about that? And you're probably talking to a bunch of these institutions. Would they want yield on their Bitcoin?
They've dealt with no yield on gold, but they've never owned a lot of gold because there's no yield. So they do prefer it. And, you know, that's why I think when the ETH ETF has yield, which will come, it'll be more attractive to them. How do you get the Bitcoin ETF? Well, it'll be the same as the safest yield will be this kind of borrowing fees for borrowing it. And if it's run by large institutions, you've got some backstop protection. You know, all ETFs have some sort of yield from borrowing that's often taken by the asset manager. I just don't like it because the capital gains is so big. We're not trying to eke out an extra few percent here. And, you know, even stuff like, and I don't really understand, like Lido, the aggregator for staking, right? It's huge. But what you've got is a yield curve mismatch. So you're able to have short-term access to yield, but really they have to lock it up. So managing that liquidity, and they're smart people, is complicated, and we don't know what can go wrong and when it goes wrong because we've never stress tested it. And that could be a weak point. We've talked about weak points many times. Yeah. It's like Deribit, who I love, is a weak point because it was 80% of all the option market, or 90%. Now, it looks like they might get bought by Coinbase, which is much better for the market, but we need more options platforms. They need more competition to spread risk.
Have you thought about other weak points?
No, it's the yield enhancement stuff I don't like. And, you know, without naming names, but I just don't like them. And they're all smart people and they're good people and they're all trying their best. But I think those products should be in the hands of professionals and not retail. I really do. Now, if you're
only institution can invest in them, you're saying?
Yeah. You know, to put their capital because they understand the risks, where are the counterparty risks, all of that stuff. And if they want to get the extra yield from doing that, great. You know, you're Brevin Howard hedge fund and you've got cash and you want to reinvest that, or you've got crypto holdings. That's your job. But for the average person to see 20% yield and that this is amazing, I'm going to be rich, you don't know what risk you're taking.